Hello, and thank you for joining us as we recap 2022 and start to prepare for the year ahead, 2023, with our annual business planning clinic. As most of you know, we like to get started with our business planning in October and November so that we can get all of our plans in place, make the necessary preparations, and start working those plans so that we can reap the benefits in early January as opposed to middle or end of the first quarter. And in case you didn't know, you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals just by writing them down. So congratulations on getting yourself almost halfway there just by showing up to work on your business today. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to recap the first six pages of our business plan. And my suggestion to each of you is that when you finish, or even if you get stuck somewhere, make an appointment with me, John, Ben, or any of our other managers, and let us help you customize this plan so that it'll work for you. There's lots of different ways to work this plan and lots of different ways to work the business. So if you get stuck anywhere or feel like you don't quite know what numbers you should be using, just reach out and we'll give you some averages. And I'll give you some of those as we go along today as well. And then one other thing I want you to think about is that I really hope that when this business plan is finished, it's not something you just save in your computer or save on a shelf somewhere. I hope that it's something that you keep in front of you and keep in your files so that you review it, hopefully at least once a month, if not once a quarter or once a week. Just simply to help keep you on track, and share it with your managers and your accountability partners so that they can use it to help you keep on track with your goals as well. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. So let's go ahead and pull up the business plan. If you are looking for a copy of this business plan and don't have it, just reach out to me. You can email me at Steph, STEPH, at bhgdlp.com, and I will send you a copy. This is for the year 2023 that we're working, so you can see you can fill your name in up here at the top. We've already got the years plan put in here, and those will carry over on subsequent pages, so make sure you have those dated properly. And if we were in a live setting, normally what I would do at this point is I would stop the class, we would read through these first two sections, and I would give you 15 to 20 minutes to write out your vision, values, and your value statement. And so today, my suggestion is that as we go through this, you're going to pause the video and go ahead and write out your vision and values and your value statement, and take the time that you need. It may take you longer than 15 or 20 minutes. I find that a lot of people in my classes want more than that. So take the time that you need to write this out. And what I suggest to a lot of people when they're first getting started in the business is I give our new agents this page, agents that are new to the company. I give them this page and say, finish this for me and bring it back, and we'll complete the rest of your business plan together. So my suggestion is to at least have this page completed before you come sit down with me, so that you are very clear on what your intent is in your business, and then I can help you with the rest of it. So this first section here, your vision and values, it talks about what is your mission, what do you stand for as a real estate professional, a business, a team, and where do you want to be in 3, 5, and 10 years? I always joke I don't play the 10-year game, so you fill that out how you feel appropriate. But I'd also ask, what are your core values and why are you in this business? I've left the sample text in here for you because I think it's helpful. And as you can see, this person started with what their core values are. I think that's a great place to start. And then talk about what it is that you want to do, and why you want to be in this business. What is it that's going to help you to remember why you want to get out of bed on the tough days, right? And if you feel the need right now, feel free to go ahead and pause the screen or pause the video and fill out this section and then come back. And when you do, we're going to talk about the value statement, and that talks about what problem are you solving for your customers and what do you do better than anyone else in your field. And for those of you that are new to the business, don't be intimidated by this. You come with previous life experience, whatever that is, whether it means that you were a CPA or you worked as, let's just say, a stay-at-home mother, whatever the job is, you come with skills. You come with organizational skills, you come with survival skills, you come with lots of things. And so think about that and what is it that you're going to be doing for your client that no one else in the business is doing? How are you going to be different? What's the level of service that you're going to provide? And so at this point, go ahead and pause the video and fill out this section and come back. And when you do, we're going to move on to goal setting simplified. If you look along the bottom of our screen here, you can see the different tabs. These are the pages, and this is an Excel document. So these are the tabs at the bottom. The next one we're going to click on is goal setting. And that will take us here, and it will pull over your name and the years from the previous page that we talked about. So the first thing that I want you to do, and we're going to bounce around on this page a little bit, so just bear with me and follow along, and I promise we'll get you where you want to be. The annual income goal is the first thing we want to talk about. And there's two things that I like to talk about when we're thinking about income and goals. So a lot of times in my past life, I have given my number, and the person conducting the business planning clinic has said, okay, great, double it. And for some people, that's really hard to wrap their brain around. And the thought process on that is that if you double it and you double the activities required to get there, you should never fail. Well, then why does that happen? Why do some people fall off? And I really feel like they feel like it's an unrealistic number, so they really never focus on the actions that are required, even if those are attainable. And so the way I want you to think about your annual income goal is, I want you to think of it in two ways: your minimum standard and then the actual goal. Okay, so the minimum standard is the dollar amount at which, if you didn't make that number, you would feel it. It would affect you. You would have to stop doing certain things, maybe certain trips you wouldn't take, maybe certain choices at the grocery store you wouldn't make. And so I want you to think about, what is that number that you would have to get to? That's your minimum standard. And so let's just say that number is 150 or 100 to 125. Let's just say it's that number. If you get below 100, you're really feeling it. Then a lot of times we'll double it, we'll get to 200, or if it's 150, we'll double it and get to 300. But what I really want you to think about is, what is the number that you would need to make in order to do everything you want to do in life? That's the true goal. And so maybe that number is 250. Maybe that number is 150. I don't know what it is, but I want you to really think about it. And I'm going to encourage you to not make your annual income goal your minimum standard. Because if you make it your minimum standard and we put the activities in here that are going to require you to get there, that's all you'll ever achieve, right? And so I want you to try to push that goal to the number that you would need to make to be able to do everything you want to do, to buy the house, to go on the vacations, to save for the retirement, to have the kids, to whatever the things are that you want, or to have the animals, the pets, the dogs, whatever the things are that you want in life. I want that number to match the annual income goal. And I understand that what it may mean is that you're going to have to push yourself really far. But the beauty is, if you do, you will never not make the minimum standard, right? And so that's why we do that. So we're going to go, I'm going to leave this 150 is the number that we want to accomplish, because I think that's a good number. For some people, the number is 50. For some people, it's 75. It's totally up to you what you make that number. So we're gonna go with 150. And then the next thing I want you to do is scroll down to the bottom of the page. And you're going to see these three sections here that are highlighted in yellow. And I want us to focus on those for just a moment. The very bottom one is the total weeks worked. And you can see this person is taking 2 weeks of vacation. And so I want you guys to think about and put in your weeks of vacation. This could also be if you have another gig, if you have something else that you're doing, or if you're, maybe it's being a parent, whatever the thing is that you're doing, that's going to take you away from working at your real estate business. I want you to factor that in, whatever that looks like. So I'll just share another scenario that I know for me, my number when I'm selling real estate and working as hard as I need to make the income that makes me comfortable, I like 5 weeks a year. That's a number that is a solid number for me. I like to take at least a week or two around Christmas. I like to take at least a week or two in the summertime, and I like to take another week somewhere in that January to June timeframe to keep me refreshed. Whatever that looks like for you is okay. I have some agents that don't even want to take a week off and I have to negotiate with them to try to find some vacation time. But I also just want you to remember that we plug those vacation days in first, because if we don't, they never come. And so make sure that you indicate how many weeks you're going to work. And this isn't just for taking time off, it's also how many appointments you're going to need. So if you're not realistic with yourself that you're going to be taking 3 or 4 weeks off during the year because you're traveling or doing other things, then it's going to skew the number of appointments you need, and you will actually need to do more. So we want to just be realistic about that number. So plug in whatever the number is that you plan to take off, subtract that number from 50, and that's the number of weeks that you're going to work for the year. The next number is average commission. And you can see here, this one is 10,000. The way you're going to calculate that, if you don't know what your average commission is, if you sold homes last year, you're going to add all of them up, all the commissions that you made, and you're going to divide them by the number of transactions you had, and that will tell you your average commission. If you don't know what your average commission is, or let's say you're newer, then what I want you to do is go to the area where you would like to sell. So if that's a geographical area, whatever that looks like, if you don't have any idea where in the desert you want to sell and you just know you're going to be in the Coachella Valley, you could actually pull the Desert Housing Report and look at that number. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what it is. I think it's like right around 650. So we're going to use 650 today. And I'm just going to do a little calculation that 650, let's see, times, and I used 2.5%. That, because we don't always control the commission that's listed in the multiple listing service, I generally use 2.5%, even though I normally negotiate 3% for myself on my listings. But today, if we use 650,000 as the average price and we multiplied that by 2.5%, that gives you $16,250. So we're going to plug $16,250 into this number, okay? And that's going to help us with some calculations because we have some formulas built in at the top of the page. So let's just say that's our average commission based off a $650,000 price. If you want, you can dig into the neighborhoods you plan on selling in or that you do sell in and see what the average sale price is in those neighborhoods. And it's probably safe to use that. And you can make the adjustments based on what you know about your business, right? The next question that we're going to ask is buyer trips to buyer sales. So this question has been changing lately, and it changes every time there's a market shift. So the question is, how many times do you have to take a buyer out in order to get them under contract and closed? Most agents, that number is 3 to 5. I think in the last little bit, it's been closer to 5, simply because we haven't had as many homes to show at one time, and because there's been times where we've had to write multiple times. So you know what your number is. If you do, great. If you don't, come to me and I can help you calculate it based on showings. But you do have to track some of these things. So think about your business last year, and if you didn't have business last year, you can use somewhere between that 3 to 5 buyer trips to sales. That will help you to get these numbers figured out. Okay, so now that we've figured out these bottom 3 sections, we're going to scroll back up to the top, and we're going to start to look at transactions. Now, this number was 15, but you can see that when this commission amount changed from 10,000 to 16,250, it almost cut in half how many transactions that I need to complete in order to accomplish my 150,000. So I want you to just see that again. We've got 9 transactions in here. If I change this number to 10,000, do you see that goes back up to 15? So adjusting your price point can adjust how many transactions you need to do. Just understand there's different ways to break into those different markets, and it's not always as simple as just making that adjustment. So we're going to put the 16,250 back in here, and that's going to give me 9 transactions. Now, these numbers are separate. These are not controlled by anything else because these numbers I need you to determine, and we're going to do that right now. What I want you to think is if you're going to do 9 transactions, how many of them are going to be listings and how many of them are going to be buyer sales? If you know what you did last year, use your ratios. If you don't know what you did last year, I want you to think about what you want to happen. Do you want to work with more buyers or do you want to work with more sellers? Buyers tend to be a faster turnover because there's not as much preparation. And with a shifting market, this wasn't necessarily the case for a while because you could take a listing, get it on and get it in escrow very quickly, but they do tend to take a little bit longer. And so it depends on how quickly you need to break into the market and some other factors. But I want you now to think about how many of these do you want to be listings? I'm just going to say I like to be listing heavy. So I'm going to go with 6 on my end and I'm going to go with 3 here. That gives me the total of 9 that I was looking for, right? And I just clicked off so I could see how this adjusts, and we'll get to that part later. But right now, I just want to make sure that the total sales adds up to listings and buyers. And by the way, when you make your next appointment after this, your next appointment is with First American or with your title company. If you make your appointment with First American, Catherine, Dawn, and Val have all been trained on our business plan, the BHG business plan. They know it. They know that page 2 is what they need to look at. And they know that this section right here is what they need. They need how many end units, how many listings, and how many buy sales do you want? Because their farming piece, the geographic farming piece, really helps with the listings, but they also have some ideas for you on the buy side. And so I do suggest that when you're done with this business plan, you bring this with you into your meeting with them so that they can review it and you can show them exactly what it is that you want them to help you accomplish. Because I know that with my farming, I need to accomplish 3 listing sales, and I should get the buyers off of those sign calls, but I may have some buyers other places. And so this seems to me like a very doable business plan based on this average commission rate. The next thing that I need you to think about, and if you need to pause here, feel free to pause to take some time to think about this. The next thing though that I want us to think about is how many listing contracts do you have to take in order to get that 6 sales? Now, for the last little bit, that answer has been 6, right? It was 100% of what you were taking was selling as far as listings go. And we know there's been a shift. It's happening now. We're in the midst of it. And so maybe you want to build in just a little bit of fallout for yourself in case you have a listing that doesn't sell. And if you do, please come see me, come see Josh. We have lots of different options for you, but in case you may want to build that in. So if we're trying to do 6 listing sales, I'm going to say that I'm going to need to do 7. I'm going to need to take 7 listing contracts just in case I have one that falls out. Because I tend to feel pretty confident in my abilities with listings. So I think I could take 7 listing contracts and that will get me the 6 listing sales that I'm looking for. So I know my goal is to accomplish that now. So the next step after that is how many listing appointments do I need to go on to get 7 people to agree to work with me? Now that means that you may be going up against other agents. It may mean that they decide not to sell. It may mean a myriad of reasons. And so I generally like to, I know what my numbers are for myself and I want you to know what your ratios are. So I hope that you're tracking how many listing appointments you're going on. I know we're tracking how many contracts we write because those are listings that we put into the multiple listing service. But how many listing appointments have you gone on? I know that my fallout rate is not very big with sellers. But I have lost a couple listings to other agents or to the seller deciding not to sell. And so I think in order to get 7 listing contracts, I probably need to get, let's just say 10. I think that's a little conservative. I think I could do 9, but I'm just going to say that I need 10 listing appointments in order to get those 7 listings. Okay, I've got a really solid listing presentation and I'm pretty confident in my skills there. So I feel like I can do that. If you feel like you're even more confident, maybe you can go more aggressive. If you feel like you maybe need a little bit more work on your listing presentation, maybe you go a little higher with that number, but also come and visit me or Josh or Jeff or any of us, and we can sit down and help you work on ways to strengthen that listing presentation and even give you some scripts to be able to use as you guide your client through that conversation. The next step that we're going to talk about, now we've got how many listing appointments that we need to go on. The next one that we want to talk about is how many buyer agreements are we going to take. Now, I want us to switch gears here for a second and stop thinking about listings. We're going to go back to this buyer sales number that we needed to get. Okay, so we need 3 buyer sales. In order to accomplish that, how many buyers do I have to get to agree to work with me? And I understand that not everybody uses the buyer representation agreement. And I understand some people even have reason for not using it in certain cases. So what I want you to think about instead is if you're using the buyer rep agreement, great. How many people do you have to get to sign those to make the 3 sales? If you're not using the buyer rep agreement or don't always use it, what I want you to come up with is a sort of a line in the sand in your mind that you know when the client crosses this line, they have chosen you to be their agent. I think the best line in the sand is the question, would you choose me to be your agent to help you purchase this house? If the answer is yes, now's the time for you to start building portals and taking them out and doing all of the things, right? Until they say that, I would be very careful about building portals and getting them ready to buy without being ready to buy, right? And so I want you to think about what is that line in the sand where when you're on a buyer appointment, whether it be on the phone or face to face, or even just at an open house that you met someone, when you're with a buyer at a buyer appointment, at what point do they choose to work with you? I want you to get very clear on what that is. And I want you to think about how many times does that have to happen? Do you have to get that agreement in order to accomplish the 3 sales? I would say if you're a strong buyer's agent, it's probably going to be, I'm going to say it's probably going to be like 3 to 5, where if you really can convert people, like maybe somebody will already have someone, or maybe they'll have a reason that they don't purchase, or maybe they actually didn't qualify. But by the time you get those buyer agreements, like once you've done the appointment and have gotten them all qualified and get everything worked out, in order to get those 3 sales that you need, 3 to 5 is probably the number. I'm going to say 5 for myself. I tend to feel more confident in listings, and those actually energize me as opposed to the buyers. So I probably would need 5 in order to feel like I would get the 3 people that said that they wanted me to be their agent. How many buyer appointments do you have to go on? So the question is, how many buyers do you have to meet and sit down with in order to get the 5 to agree with you, to agree that you're their agent? And that number may be a little bit higher. And for many reasons, they may not qualify. They may, these are people that you're just sitting down and doing the appointment, having a conversation with them about what their needs are. You may get them through the process, and there may be reasons that they can't, especially with the shifting market that we're in. So for this number, again, I think I'm real confident with the listings. I'm a little less with the buyers. So maybe I'm going to go a little bit different here. And I'm going to say that I think I need 7 buyer appointments to get 5 people to agree to work with me in order to get those 3 sales that I need. Okay. And then I've already said that let's see. Okay. Sorry, never mind. The next question after that, if you've gotten to this place where you know how many buyer appointments you need, is how many buyer trips are required. Okay. And the number of buyer trips that are required, what that basically means is, let's see, as a matter of fact, I've got a formula here. This one is actually calculated. So it's going to be B14 times B31. And B14 is your buyer sales times buyer trips. So that's the 3 people that we get to work with us by the number of times we have to show them property. That's 9 more trips that are required. The reason this is important, and the reason it threw me off, it does almost every single time, is because I have to remember why this is important, why we need to know how many buyer trips we're going to go on, because it equals appointments. And what we're trying to accomplish here, the whole end result of this, is how many appointments do you need to go on? So the 9 buyer trips that are going to be required for me to 3 times show the 3 buyers that are going to get them under contract. And then the other 26 appointments that I'm going to go on, which is D, F, and G. It's listing appointments, buyer appointments, and buyer trips required. That's all 3 of those items added up is going to be this number 26. That's how many appointments I need. And that means that I have a weekly goal. My weekly appointment goal is half an appointment per week. That means I need 2 appointments per month to achieve my goal. And based on the numbers that I've plugged in, each of my appointments is worth $5,800. If you can see all of that. The way this all gets calculated in is your weekly appointment goal is B20 divided by B33. If you can see these the sum up at the top, the formula that's up at the top here. So this weekly appointment goal is the total number of trips divided by the total number of weeks I'm going to work, which is why that was important. And that gives me half an appointment per week. Let's just say, remember I told you guys it was important for me to have a little bit more vacation. So let's say I was going to take 3 more weeks off and I went with 45. That means I need 0.6 appointments per month. That means I need just a little bit more than 1 appointment, per week. That means I need a little bit more than 2 appointments. I would need like 2.5 to 3 appointments per month in order to be able to make that goal. But it also means that per appointment, if I'm bringing in this commission off of every transaction and I'm making this goal, that means each appointment is worth $57.69 to me. And what that number is for the average agent is generally somewhere between $1,500 to $5,000. The better you are at your conversion ratios, the higher that dollar value per appointment will be. And I think this is the most important part for you guys to remember, is that when you cancel your lead gen appointment with yourself, you are definitely walking away from $5,700. When you don't do your lead generation and don't set appointments with clients, you're walking away from that dollar value per appointment every time you don't sit down to set them. And so just be aware of that and calculate these numbers for yourself, figure out what that looks like, so that you know for yourself what your personal number is. The better you are at converting, the higher this dollar amount will be. And then down here, you're going to see your listing ends of total sales, buyer ends of total sales. This is all your percentages. And if you look, if we click on each one of these, you can see the formula up at the top that was used out of these cells to calculate these percentages. If you want to make adjustments to these percentages, we can absolutely do that. And that will help us to be able to determine what these other numbers are going to be. And so we can make those adjustments and play with it both ways. What your total appointment contacts will have to look like. And so if you guys, as you get through this page, if you get stuck anywhere, feel free to pause, go back, but also call me and set an appointment with me and I'll help walk you through it. This page does tend to be the most challenging, and I'll be candid, most people get stuck here and don't ever get past this part to the next. And I think the next page is just as important. So we're going to go on to that next. But my suggestion again is, once you get through this, if you get stuck or you have any questions, or even if you think you just flew through it, call me, set an appointment, and let's review it together so that we make sure that it's all honed in for exactly what you're looking for. The next page that we're going to go to is the business source tracking. So you can see down here along the bottom, I'm going to click on business source tracking. And this section is a place for you to plug in, all of your all of the places where your business is going to come from. So what we've been talking about lately is that a lot of our agents who were maybe doing 1 or 2 hours of lead gen per day up until just a little while ago are having to double, triple, and quadruple that. So some people that were doing 2 are now doing 4. Some that were doing 1 are doing 2, 3, and 4. And you really have to think about, when you go from doing 1 hour of lead gen per day to 4, that can be a really daunting task. And I appreciate that it's not just sitting down and making 4 hours of calls. That takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of preparation and getting all of that ready. So what some of our top agents have had to really do is sit down and re-diversify where their calls are coming from, who they're calling, who they're reaching out to. And this is really going to help you guys to get thinking about where your business came from or where your business is going to come from. So let's just say that if you've got your numbers from last year, I'm going to suggest you stop the video now and just plug them into this current year column. Plug in anything that you've already done. And then the next section here is so go ahead and pause that if you want to do that. And then when you unpause, you'll come back and we're going to go to the next year. So if you have no business, this is where you'll start, because what I want you to think about is, where is your business going to come from? So what we know from the previous page is that we need 9 total transactions. And we're just going to be aggressive over here. Maybe shoot for 10. We're going to see if we can figure 10 places where we might be able to pull business from. So first is past and repeat clients. If it's your first year in the business, you're probably not going to have any past and repeat clients unless you're coming from another line of business. If you're coming from another line of business and you have not reached out to your past clients to let them know what you're doing here, please do. It doesn't matter where you're from. Everyone knows someone that wants to go to Palm Springs at some point, and you should be keeping touch with everyone in your database. So if you don't have anybody, go ahead and put 0 in here. But if you think you might be able to pull somebody from a past or repeat client, or someone that's a past client, please add them in here. One thing I want you to hold off on, though, is if it's a referral from the past client. If they're referring someone else to you, hold off, because we have a separate section for that. I only want you to think about people that have used you once before and they are personally going to use you again. Okay, so anybody that you have in here will plug in. I'm gonna plug 2 in here and just say that hopefully we can find 2 people that used us last year that are going to use us again. You know what? I feel like that might be aggressive. I'm gonna go 1. Friends and family. Who do you know? Let's just say you have no friends and family in the desert. You're brand new to the desert. You're just meeting people and you're not real confident. So we're going to leave that at a 0. The next one is referrals from past clients. So if someone that's used you before, this business or another business, decides to refer a friend to you, how many of those people do you think you can find? And this is really where I want you to start thinking about how you're going to communicate with your database come January and even in December. Maybe now is the time to be making the calls where we don't ask for anything. So if you're not really comfortable making calls to your database, now's the time to do it, because you're just calling to say Happy Thanksgiving. You're just calling to say Merry Christmas. And what we like to say is that a lot of times the expectation is that you should make 7 or 8 deposits before you make a withdrawal. And so if you feel weird asking for something, you probably haven't made enough deposits. So go ahead and make a couple deposit calls, and especially get some of those out of the way during the holidays when it's real easy and you have a great reason to call people just to say you're thinking about them. And so hopefully what that'll do is allow you to reestablish in their minds that you are in the business, that you're ready for their friends and family who need help. And then when you call in January and February saying, hey, do you know of anybody that's looking to buy or sell a home? There's no surprise. This particular person had 5 in here. I think we're going to go a little bit less aggressive, and I'm going to say hopefully I can pull 2 from my referrals from past clients. That means everybody they know. So it's not just a small pool of people that have used me. It's now widened that pool out to everyone that they know. That's a great way to increase your sphere exponentially when you don't really feel like you have a big one, is to start asking your friends for referrals, because they're already in an alliance. They're already somebody that knows you, somebody who trusts you, and somebody who cares about you. And so it's easy for them to make the recommendation. And I know it's easy, way easier for me when you guys tell another agent, hey, you got to come talk to Stephanie, my manager. She's wonderful. It's way easier for me to make those phone calls than it is when I'm just calling saying, hey, I'd love to work with you. And so the same thing goes for you guys. When you can find somebody that'll wave the flag for you, definitely do it and treat those people well. I like to call these people my core advocates. Anybody that sends me 3 to 5 pieces of business per year, I treat them differently. They're the ones that get the pies at Thanksgiving. They're the ones that get the special things from me that I don't necessarily do for everyone, but they're the things that people in the neighborhood see me delivering that they're like, wait, how do I get that? And it makes for a really sticky referral network within your communities and your farms that you're working. So just something to think about. The next section is referrals from strategic alliances. So I like to think of those as maybe if, let's just say your significant other is an investment banker and he or she has lots of resources with other clients, that might be a strategic alliance. It could also be friends and family. You know what I mean? You could also consider it that, but I'm thinking almost coming from other businesses. So let's just say that you have a friend that you play tennis with who's a probate attorney. That would be an amazing resource. And if he's sending you 3 to 5 pieces of business per year, that is also a core advocate. But that would maybe be a strategic alliance, or maybe some other business that feeds in. Let's say that you have a cousin or a friend, it doesn't have to be family member, a friend that works at a shutter company, and every now and again they hear of somebody that wants to sell their home, and they have you as somebody that they can refer them to if they're allowed to. That would be a strategic alliance. So there's lots of different ways we can look at this, but whatever you want this to be, if you feel like you have something that you can pull from here, then go ahead and plug a number in there. And then I also want us to think about in our database referrals from agents. And that is, you know, this is a great way to buy your lead gen time back. The time that you would normally be spending generating the lead, you're going to pay in a referral. And so I want you to think about who are those agents that you know that don't live in the desert, that live elsewhere, One great way to do that is figure out agents that live in cities with direct flights into Palm Springs and make sure you have an alliance in each one of those areas so that they have somebody to refer their clients to when they're coming to the desert. That would be that's a really great way to build your business. And all of these courses, all of these sources that we've talked about so far, all come from your database. These are people that should be in your database. So if you're looking for more ideas, maybe go through the database of people you have and see if there's any other categories that you might want to pull together. So we're still looking for, we've got, let's see, referral from agent. I'm going to put 0 in here. So we've got 2, 3 so far. So we're still looking for 7 pieces of business. So if you get to this place and you recognize that your database isn't going to feed you even half of the business you're looking for, you recognize very quickly that you have to look for it elsewhere, right? And for many of us, this is the case. For many of us, this is why we do the things, the activities that we do on a regular basis. So my next question is, how about open house? How many clients do you think you could get from open house? I know that I said in the earlier page that I wanted to be more listing heavy. And to be candid, I'm really good at doing open houses where I pull sellers in and I have conversations with them. That's where 75% of my listings come from. So I'm going to say that's probably an activity I really need to focus on, and I should probably be doing at least one a weekend, right? And that's also something I might want to write down for my goal setting, which is going to be later on in the business plan, that I may want to plan an open house every weekend because I know that's where many of my sellers come from. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping that I'm going to pull 4 of my sellers are potentially going to come from there. And you know what? Let's just go 3. So I really have to stretch and look elsewhere, but maybe I'll come back and add a 4th one there. So that gives me, let's see, I'm going to plug a 0 in here and a 0 in here. So I have the right number. Okay. So that gives me 6. So I still need to find 3 or 4 more places where I'm going to pull a piece of business so that I'm getting those total transaction count that I need of 9. And I said I was going to shoot, maybe just try to go a little bit above that. So I'm looking for 9 or 10. Farming. So last year, I think I was successful in pulling 2 or 3 from my farming. And you have to get consistent. If you're not going to do this every month and you're not going to put yourself in that neighborhood 12 times a year, either in their mailboxes or by door knocking or whatever the things are that you're going to do, be realistic about the fact that you may only pull one or maybe 0 will come from your farming. You really have to get consistent about it. And we do have a really great plan for that. We have a 12-month marketing plan that you can use for your farm that's completely customizable. If you'd like, set an appointment with me and tell me that you want the 12-month marketing plan after you meet with First American, and I'll help you figure out what that looks like before you meet with Josh so he can design the pieces, or you can pull them from Moxie. That's another touch point where you'll want to get together with me and I can help you. It takes about 5 minutes to do it, but we really can pull together a nice farming plan for you. If you're not going to do that though, I suggest you leave this number at 0. Unless you have some other tricks up your sleeve. And I'm sure that you might, but unless you're really planning on focusing on that and doing it all out, doing it throughout the year, I wouldn't suggest that you're probably going to pull much from it. You can't do it once in a row and expect it to yield results. That came from an old mentor of mine. Okay, so the direct mail piece, how many direct mailings are you going to do? You know, this is a really great piece to do when we are looking for listings, that you can do direct mailers to sellers, hoping that you're going to, you know, pull a listing appointment, even to expired. That might be another avenue that you travel. So if you think you might pull any from direct mail, then you're definitely going to want, then you go ahead and put an item in here as well. So let's just go ahead and say, I think I'm going to pull 1 from direct mailing. And sign calls, you know, again, I said I was hoping to be heavy on the listings. And so I think that I'm probably going to get at least 1 or 2 buyers. I'm going to say 2 buyers from my sign calls, because I am anticipating that I'm going to have at least 6 listing sales. So that should be 6 listing signs up. And every time a sign goes up, we know that there's generally two more listings come up in the neighborhood, and there's generally 2 or 3 sales that are yielded out of that. And so I'm going to assume that I'm probably going to get 2 sign calls based on my past experience. I am working on my website this year. I'm not really hot and heavy on that piece of it right now. So I'm going to suggest that I'm probably not going to get anything from my website this year, but that might be one of my goals on things that I want to work on. And then I do have Opcity in here because I know we have some agents that are using it. I am not signed up for it, so I'm not going to put one in here. But what this does is it gives me the 9, exactly the 9 that I needed. And I said that I was going to try to see if I could find 10. So what I want to look at is where else could I focus my energy and time in here where I might be able to pull one more sale. And you guys will find yourselves having to do this sometimes. You'll get in here and sometimes you'll have way too many and recognize you don't need nearly as many as you from your database as you think you can get. And other times you're looking from where can I pull that extra sale. So right now I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say that I think I might be able to get one more here, but you know what? I think I'm actually going to try to spread myself out a little bit more with the opening houses the open houses, because I know what a good tactic that's been for me in the past. So I'm going to say 4, which means that I definitely need to do one a week. If I'm planning on getting 4 of my closings from open house meetings, I need to be meeting with those people every week. And I probably need to get specific on where I'm holding those open houses as well. So that gives me my 10. This should actually plug these numbers in over here for us, and they should automatically have filled over, and they didn't for some reason. So I'm going to play with the formatting on this. Hopefully by the time you get this from me, these numbers will plug in, because what it should do is it should multiply each one of these numbers. So it should multiply the 2 by the commission amount, and then each of these should plug in properly here. You can see this one did, but this one didn't quite. So we'll figure out what the problem is with the formula, and we'll get this corrected in the spreadsheet. But that is getting through your business sources. Now I'm going to share with you, many agents stop here. And if you do, or even if you just got past page 1 and page 2 and you're looking at this and your eyes are crossing, that's okay. Sometimes it takes each year for an agent to build on and add more pieces to the puzzle, because sometimes in the first year, you're just trying to still get things figured out. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I had agents last year reach out to me and say, hey, Steph, remember how you said it might take me a while? I think this year I'm ready for the budget page. And we dug into it. So I'm going to go through that page with you today and share it with you. I'm going to click on it here. It's at the bottom of the page. It's our budget. And we're going to review it very briefly, but I want you guys to go through this. And if you know what your actuals were for 2022, plug them in here. If you have some of those costs pulled together, and even if you really don't want to touch this page, this is a really good idea now. It's just to plug the costs in. Because if you can plug the costs in next year when you're ready, you can go back and use this old sheet, pull it into the next year's sheet, and you're able to kind of just run off of those numbers, and you've got some of the work done already, so it's not nearly as daunting. It can just help to alleviate some of the pressure of the task. Anyway, this piece is going to give you some really great stuff, because it does show you what your year over year is based on your actuals and your goal. It will show you the percentage change that you're going to have. But let's go through some of the categories, because really the biggest thing I want you guys to do in this section is just to be thinking about it. I want you to just get you thinking about what your expenses are. What are your office and operation costs? You've got things like assistants. If you don't have an assistant, maybe it's a TC or a virtual assistant that you might be using. And if you don't have that, maybe you put in here, like, I've got need help. Like, this is the place where I really need to get this going and I haven't been doing it. You've got consulting, you've got telephone, office supplies, coaching and training. Fortunately, you don't pay for any of that stuff with us. But you have other things like automobile and travel, meals and entertainment, accounting and professional fees, your license dues and dues fees. All of that stuff is included in here. And you have a section to be able to put other items in. So I suggest you go through, figure out what all your operations costs are, and give yourself an idea. That way, you know that those are your expenses. If you don't at least make that, then you're at a loss, and that doesn't do anyone any good, right? So get yourself kind of thinking about that. The next section is marketing. And this is the part where I really do find that, you know, a lot of agents aren't thinking about this until their second, maybe third, fourth year in the business. Some agents, even it takes until year 5 before they really get into consistently marketing themselves. So what does your CRM or your monthly newsletter look like? What is the cost for that? We all know you can use Greenhouse and you can use Moxie for your CRM, and that is included free, but others have some that they pay for, and that's completely okay. What are you going to be doing for advertising? Print, farming, flyers, guides, postcards should be in here for sure. Client appreciation and community events. Maybe this is your pie delivery at Thanksgiving, or maybe you do something special for Veterans Day or 4th of July. Those items can go in here. Website and video, what are those costs for you per year? Your wows, your client gifts, any repairs that you do, certain things that you do to help your clients. and other marketing ideas that you put in here. You're more than welcome to fill this out as with everything that you can think of that goes into your business. And then transaction costs, signs, MLS fees, photography, feature sheets. I also think you can put your split in two places. You can put it in transaction costs, or you can put it in your operations office costs. It's completely up to you, but I do suggest whatever your split is, you take that percentage and plug it in here so that you can see what all those costs are that go into you running your business. Another thing this really helps with is when you're sitting down with a seller that's asking you to cut your commission, having this budget prepared and knowing what you spend your money on really goes a long way. I worked with an agent once who was able to say hands down unequivocally she spent more money on her marketing than any agent in the entire Coachella Valley. And at the time, she was absolutely right. And she was able to provide a list of everything she did. And this is a great way to kind of get that started. We have a list of the 62 services that we provide that is a slick that you're able to put into any of your listing presentations. But this is a great way for you to start thinking about your own and what that should look like. Or what that does look like, what the costs are that are associated with each listing that you take and each time that you represent a buyer. And so you can plug those costs in anywhere that you guys see fit. But this is a very simple one-page sheet that sort of shows you what your profits and your losses are. It's a very simple P&L statement. And if you want help reviewing this or going through it, please just reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to do some of this with you and go through the budget. The next page, if you need to pause and take some time on this, feel free, but we're going to move on. The next page is our year at a glance. And this is where I talked about, guys, adding in your holidays, making those the first thing that you plug into the calendar, or if you have another gig, or if you have something else that you're doing in your life that you know you need to be away for, you know it's going to take you away from your business, maybe not for the entire month, but that's time that you want to be away, make sure that gets plugged in. Attending 2 training events each year is important. Again, these can be whatever you want them to be. All of this is editable. The one that I really did want to show was that this one down here says host, volunteer, 1 open house per week. This agent is really committed, and this looks like it's my business plan. This agent is really committed to getting that open house in every week. So they've got one down that this is their goal every month. They want to host 1 per week. And then what we do with this sheet at the end, this sheet is really great for agents who either do a lot of volunteering, have a second job, are parents, whatever it is, that allows you to put everything that you're going to be doing in one place. And it allows you to see the months that are going to be crazy. Like you can see on this one, the month of July for this particular person is really busy. There's a lot going on. And so they want to just be sure that they've prepared themselves. Maybe June and August aren't such heavy months, and that they're giving themselves a little bit of a break and trying to accomplish all of this while taking a vacation. All of that is a lot. It's a lot. So you just want to make sure that you plan for it. And this allows you to see that year at a glance and determine where you might have some tough spots that you need to bring in some help. And then what we do is we take all of these items on the monthly action plan, which is our next tab below, and we take everything that was in January and we put it in one spot, everything in February and put it in one spot. And we do the same thing for each of the months as we go through the year. And then you'll notice over here off to the right, there's some little steps for you that kind of help you to get through this page. And the action steps, it sort of shows you what each of the columns means. The action steps, which is this one here, are a basic description of the action specifics that will be on another list or action plan. The deadline is going to be the timeline that you set that you can meet and meets the needs of your business. The DRP is the designated response person. So who is going to help you with this? Is there somebody that you're going to have help? Who's responsible? The name of the first name leads the action. And that piece, I want you to just remember, until you have an assistant, you are the assistant. So your name may be filled in here a lot, but what this gets you thinking about is who would I have helping me? Who, if I had an assistant, what would they be doing? And hopefully you'll be finding lots of, I used to say $15 an hour, but I don't think we can use that anymore. I think you have to say $20 to $25 an hour work. And instead you're doing the $300 an hour work. And so that's the stuff I want you to start differentiating in your head. And then the next one is how many hours is it going to take? Is it booked in your calendar? And what percent is completed so you can monitor your progress? And then you're going to choose the parts of your business that you want to master this year and schedule 1 per quarter. Schedule those things that the major things that you really want to accomplish. Maybe you want to get your broker's license. I was just actually thinking last night, my broker's license that test is over. I'm a broker now. And I kept thinking about how happy I would be once that was done and I had all this free time. I don't feel like I have a ton of free time now, but I do feel like I need a new goal for this year. So what's the next thing that I'm going to work on to accomplish? Figuring that out for yourself, what the next milestone is I think it's just as important as figuring out when your next vacation is going to be. And if you don't always have one of those booked, my biggest suggestion for you this year is when you're finishing the vacation you're currently on, book the next one so you know where you're going and you have that thing to look forward to. So that is it for our business planning or review of the business plan. I won't say that's it for the business planning clinic because I don't necessarily feel like you're finished with this until you have made your appointment with me, have made your appointment with John or Ben, and we have sat down with you and reviewed this and really helped you to hone it in. And then I also feel like after that, you need your appointment with your title company to be able to make sure your farm is intact and take this with them to make sure that your farm is what it needs to be. We've been talking a lot this year about how many of us have had to expand our farms out because the number of homes that we need, the number of people we need to touch in order to reach our goals has increased. And so because there's not as much low-hanging fruit. And so make sure that you're sitting down with title and reviewing that with them. When you're done with title, make sure you come back and set your next appointment with me so that we can complete your 12-month plan for your farm. And then the next appointment is with Josh or to go into Moxie to pull the pieces that you want to pull so that you have the postcards and the printed materials or whatever it is, whether it's social media or whatever that's going to look like, you have it all pulled together so that it's ready to go so you're not scrambling each month. One of the biggest suggestions I could give you for your farming, if you're going to be doing printed materials, sit down and plan out a minimum a quarter. I would suggest 6 months so that they're ready to go and you have them all sent, ready to send to the printer. And then when it's time, they can be sent and they can be mailed out and you don't have to worry about it. That is why we try to do this so early in the year. I know it's a lot to take in, so I hope you all got something out of this session today. And I certainly hope that when you're finished reviewing this plan yourself, when you get to the end of the first 3 pages, that you reach out to me, set an appointment so that we can sit down and have a conversation about how to make sure this is all wrapped up for you so you can get the most out of 2023. Again, thank you for spending some time with us this morning. Have a great rest of your week and take care.